Enterprise engineering teams run at full speed to deploy AI, but that momentum stops the moment the project hits a wall of compliance requirements. High-value projects end up sitting idle in a state of legal limbo because the team lacks a verifiable way to show the model is safe for customers to use. This often happens when legal teams draft a policy based on the NIST framework or ISO standards, but treat it as a theoretical document rather than a technical requirement. The gap appears because most organizations lack the technical architects who can actually translate those legal rules into the live engineering environment. Without that bridge, the result is a mounting backlog of blocked projects growing weekly while developers wait for approval. This delay is critical as we approach August 2026, when the EU AI Act becomes a strictly enforced operational reality. The European Commission is already establishing the regulatory infrastructure to monitor these systems, turning institutional oversight into a permanent part of the tech stack. A written AI strategy provides no value without the continuous technical infrastructure to enforce it. It simply creates a growing list of non-functional projects that cannot move past the planning stage. To keep working despite these delays, employees often turn to shadow AI, using unsanctioned tools and external models to process their daily tasks. While this keeps individual productivity high in the short term, it creates a massive visibility gap for the rest of the organization. This matrix shows the direct trade-off. Static governance leaves the board with zero visibility into where company data is actually going, whereas continuous governance relies on real-time telemetry. Without that telemetry, unmonitored prompts leak proprietary data directly into external models. This leads to the second problem, treating governance as a one-and-done checklist rather than an active, ongoing system. AI models are not static. They suffer from drift and bias emergence that only become visible after weeks in production. Hallucinations can start occurring long after the initial audit, meaning a system that was safe at launch can become unreliable over time. Without a system to catch these errors, a model could violate its safety parameters and reach a customer months after it was supposedly approved. Relying on stag audits guarantees high emergency costs later when those models inevitably fail at data privacy audit or require a full rollback. Some teams take a wait-and-see approach, pushing forward with unregulated deployments to maintain their speed in the market. But when the regulations finally arrive, those teams are forced to reverse engineer compliance into a system that was never designed for it. The matrix shows the cost of this delay. Retroactively mapping rules onto a live system requires rewriting workflows and halting production, making it far more costly than building constraints initially. This challenge becomes even more acute as we move toward agentic AI. Organizations are deploying highly autonomous systems, like Claude 4.7, to handle complex decisions without constant human oversight. But autonomy leads to a total loss of the decision-making trail. If you can't see how the agent reached a conclusion, you're operating with a black box. If it makes a flawed financial trade, the organization has no way to audit the error. This leaves the C-suite legally exposed. If an action can't be explained during a regulatory review, it can't be defended. Prioritizing product velocity over auditability creates a system where the leadership team is held responsible for decisions they can't actually explain. Solving this requires moving governance out of the legal department and into the code itself, turning it into a continuous layer within the engineering pipeline. Legal and compliance teams must transition from drafting static documents to focusing on how those rules are structurally integrated into the software. The first step on the scorecard is hiring technical AI architects who can translate high-level safety policies into the actual code that runs the models. For the legal team, this means accepting a more rigorous policy drafting phase to ensure the engineering pipeline stays open and functional. For product teams, it means integrating human-in-the-loop telemetry to monitor how models behave in the real world. You must also maintain auditable logs that can provide a clear explanation for the actions taken by autonomous agents. Engineering teams will have to accept a slower pace today, but that investment is what allows the product to withstand a formal audit once the 2026 rules take effect. Waiting for regulations to settle is no longer a viable strategy. Every model moving to production now requires the structural integrity to survive a formal audit on day one. The organizations that lead the market over the next decade won't just be the ones that moved the fastest. They will be the ones that built the most reliable systems.